Okay.
All right. Hi, I'm Bethany Pratt with Jefferson County Cooperative Extension. I'm the horticulture agent here, and I'm here today in my asparagus patch to talk about how to grow and harvest some asparagus. So as you see right here, asparagus is one of our first plants that grows in the spring. So these have been growing and producing since about early March. It's late May right now, so they're kind of wrapping up and they're getting into their reproductive stage right now. So we're going to harvest just a few and then let the rest start to flower and go to seed. Asparagus are another perennial, which means that you plant it once and it continues to grow there year after year. So if you're considering having asparagus in your yard, you want to spend some time thinking about where you can let them grow and maintain them from year after year. You also need to really think about some soil prep before that. And if you're interested in talking specifically about that, myself and other folks at the Extension Office are happy to go into more detail about asparagus bed prep. So once you have your plants planted, it takes about 2 years for asparagus to be mature enough to harvest. And they are one of the first plants that comes up in the spring. So this year it was like mid-March when they started to come out of the ground. And if we take a look here, you can see what they really first look like when they come out. I have a couple varieties here. I have some Purple Night, and then I have some Jersey Giant Green. And they come just straight out of the ground. It kind of looks like a paintbrush. It's just popped out of the ground right here. And this is the stalk before it is getting ready to bloom. And this is the part that we eat. So for all of these, we're gonna let our asparagus get between 6 to 12 inches high and about the size of a finger in width. And then all you need is a sharp kitchen knife. You're gonna come through and just do a little slice and cut them off right at the base here. If you've ever purchased asparagus at a farmer's market or a grocery store, you would want to get them about the same size. For me, my plants tend to vary a whole lot in width. So I'm looking more at the width of my plants when I harvest. As they get thicker, they tend to be a little woodier and not as great to eat. So these are harvested shorter just because they're thicker, whereas this one is kind of my ideal, perfect asparagus to harvest. It's about the width of my finger and about 12 to 14 inches long. So it's kind of like a nice long handled paintbrush. And this will be perfect for eating. All right, so as I'm looking through, asparagus, as it warms up, these plants start to begin to start going to seed. So this nice kind of paintbrush tip that we've got here is actually where our flowers are gonna form later on. So if you'll take a look here, right, these taller stalks are opening up. We can see the stems coming in here, and then our leaflets coming out. So they kind of are a rather fern-like plant. And as they open up, we can see these bigger ones even over here have opened up. Our stems have come out. Our leaves are getting ready. And then we've got one nice mature plant over here. It's this beautiful fern. And this is great. So this is how our asparagus reproduces. So it opens up its leaves and you can see all the flower buds right here. And so this plant is going to flower and fruit and then drop these little red asparagus berries back into the ground. And that's what's gonna help my plants, my asparagus patch kind of rejuvenate itself year after year. So an asparagus patch is a long-term commitment. You're giving it space to do this every year. You get a beautiful asparagus forest by about early July. And then these plants will continue to grow here for up to 40 years. So it's a really cool lifelong commitment for you. They're a pretty low maintenance plant once you get them established. So a lot of it is just harvesting, allowing them to give them to space and structure to grow. Some of these stalks can get pretty heavy and they're a little wobbly, right? So they might even fall over. So giving them a little structure as they get taller to support. And then keeping our soil underneath nice and mulched, right? The crown of the asparagus, those roots are what we're trying to protect in order to get more. So some fall mulching or some early spring mulching, depending on where you're at, is a great way to keep your asparagus bed going. And then after that, right, you're 2 years after your planting, you can really start harvesting and enjoying it. My bed right here is 4.5 years old. So this year I was harvesting 2 bunches of asparagus a week from about mid-March to mid-April. So for a month I was getting 2 bunches a week. Right now I'm getting about 1 bunch a week. And this harvest that we just saw, when I finish it up, is going to be my last one for this year. And then I'm going to let everything else that grows go up and go to seed. That way I'm making sure that the plant has enough time to rejuvenate the crown system that's underneath, so I can harvest more asparagus next year.
Okay, and I'm going to put in, hi, I'm Joel, a little bit of culinary trivia. Asparagus is one of the only vegetables that it's okay to eat with your hands when you go out.
Ah.
And I never knew that before, but yes, because of the stalks, you can actually pick it up with your hands.
Oh.
Individually and
so you can kind of just like
yep.
munch on it, just like we would like a carrot stick.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, what a good piece of an etiquette tip. I would have thought to eat it with a fork and a knife.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Joel Worth, and I am a senior SNAP education assistant with the University of Kentucky's Corporate Extension Service here in Jefferson County, and with the KNEP, which is the Kentucky Nutrition Education Program. Earlier we were in the garden and we picked asparagus and learned about asparagus. Now we're at the other end in the kitchen and we're going to prepare a delicious asparagus tomato salad. Now asparagus is wonderful. It's a great source of vitamin A and folate. It's low in calories and it also has protein and carbohydrates in it. Now, to know the asparagus that you want to eat, the easy way to do it is just click down like this, and when it snaps, this is the part of the stem that's really crunchy, and you really don't want to eat that. It's hard to eat. So we put that off to the side. Now you can do 2 things with this. Is you can put it in your compost bin, or you can, if you got a bunch of them, run them through a food processor, and you can use this for an asparagus soup. So, in my bowl here, I have 1 pound of asparagus cut in about 1 inches or a little bit bigger squares. I have 1 small yellow squash. Now the recipe calls for zucchini. I used yellow squash because I love color. We have 1 cup of cherry tomatoes. Okay. We have 1/4 cup of scallions or green onions. We have 1 clove of garlic. This is a big clove because I love garlic. So if you love garlic, you can add a little bit more. Now to make the dressing is, I love to use, this is my secret way of making a good dressing, is the glass jar, because then you can shake it and everything comes out well. So we're going to use 3 tablespoons of olive oil, now the recipe calls for red wine vinegar, but I love golden balsamic vinegar, so I'm going to use the golden balsamic vinegar, and use what you like. So that's going to call for 2 tablespoons of that. Okay, it's going to call for a 1/4 teaspoon of honey mustard, which I made earlier. And the recipe again calls for seasoned salt. I personally don't like seasoned salt. It's got a bunch of stuff in it. It's got sugar in it, a bunch of other preservatives. It's got onions powder, and it's got garlic powder in it, but we would have fresh onions and fresh garlic. So I am just going to use good old plain salt, and that calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. And we're going to throw 1/4 cup of chopped parsley in that. And we're going to give it a good shake. And while using the jar, everything gets together, it combines really, really well. The mustard acts as an emulsification to bring the oil and the vinegar together. So we're going to dump that in the top. We're going to mix it. We're going to mix it. And then we're going to top it off. The recipe calls for a 1/4 cup of shredded crushed mozzarella. So we're going to see what it looks like with a 1/4 cup. Now, if you're like me, I love cheese. So I'm going to put another 1/4 cup in. And voila, you have an asparagus tomato salad.